Okay, so right away, our source material hits us with this question. Is it a game or is it a sport? And get this, the it they're talking about is chess.
Interesting.
Yeah, so chess, right. I mean, it's ancient, it's played all over the world, but is it just like a fun way to kill time or sharpen your mind? Or is it more like a serious competition, something worthy of being called a sport?
It's really fascinating because even with something as seemingly clear-cut as chess,
Yeah.
this question of game versus sport comes up.
Right.
It really makes you think about what truly defines those categories.
Yeah.
Like, is it physical exertion?
Yeah.
Or the intensity of the competition, the strategic depth,
Yeah.
the years of practice it takes to master it? Because honestly, chess kind of checks a lot of those boxes.
It totally does.
Yeah.
And whether you're someone who like analyzes grandmaster games or you've just seen a chessboard in a movie, this deep dive is for, we're not assuming you anything already.
Yeah.
Our mission today, and we're taking cues from this English Pod audio, is
Sure.
to really lay the groundwork, to understand those basic pieces of chess and how they move. Yeah.
So think of this as your crash course on the essentials, the building blocks of this incredibly rich game.
And that foundation is so important.
Yeah.
People are coming to this with different levels of knowledge, so we're going to keep things really accessible.
Right.
Avoid any super complicated jargon and really focus on those key elements.
Absolutely.
It's amazing how much strategy emerges from these seemingly simple rules.
I know it is. So let's break it down.
Okay.
Where do we even begin to make sense of this whole game of strategy? Well, the dialogue we're looking at starts with a father introducing chess to his son Bobby.
Okay.
And one of the very first things he points out is that each player starts with 16 pieces 16.
Wow.
When you picture them all lined up on the board, it really does feel like this miniature battlefield.
It does. And as we explore each of these pieces, we'll see they all have very specific roles,
Yeah.
unique ways of moving, and also limitations.
Right.
It's this blend of capabilities and restrictions that makes the game so complex and opens up so many strategic possibilities.
Right. It's almost like each piece is a different instrument in an orchestra, contributing to the overall sound.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
And the way they're initially set up is quite traditional, right? The audio talks about the pawns forming that front rank, and then all the other more, distinctive pieces positioned behind them.
Yeah.
It's almost as if the pawns are the first line of defense shielding the more powerful pieces.
That's a great analogy. The starting setup isn't random. It's evolved over centuries of strategic thinking.
Wow.
This initial formation actually shapes the potential game, attacks the lines of defense, and the whole strategic landscape from the get-go.
I see.
It's like the canvas for the entire game.
And of course, you have the two sides instantly recognizable by their colors.
Yeah.
White and black.
Exactly. Such a simple way to distinguish the players and their forces, but so effective.
Definitely.
It really reinforces that core concept of
Yeah.
two opposing forces in this struggle for control.
Right.
It's a visual representation of that inherent duality in the game.
Okay, so let's talk about those frontline soldiers, the pawns.
Okay.
Now, the audio calls them the least valuable pieces, which sounds a little harsh, but I mean, there are 8 of them per player.
Right.
So even if they're not the strongest, their sheer number must give them some importance, right?
Absolutely. While a single pawn might seem limited in its movement collectively, they form a vital defensive barrier. They also play a crucial role in controlling key squares and can be used to open up paths for your more powerful pieces.
Interesting.
Yeah, so never underestimate the combined strength of that pawn structure.
So their basic movement is pretty straightforward, at least at the beginning of the game, one space forward.
Yeah.
But there's that interesting option on their first move, isn't there?
Yes, on a pawn's very first move, the player can choose to move it 1 or 2 squares forward. This adds a layer of tactical decision-making right from the start.
Okay.
It influences how the game unfolds early on, but after that initial move, they're generally limited to 1 square at a time, except for one key exception.
And that's capturing, right?
Exactly.
This is where things get a little more complex for the pawns because they don't capture the same way they move forward.
That's a crucial point.
Yeah.
Pawns can only capture by moving 1 square diagonally forward. So they can't just slide sideways to take a piece. There has to be an opponent's piece diagonally in front of them.
Interesting.
This unique capture movement adds a whole other layer to pawn strategy.
Now, this is what I find really fascinating, and it shows how chess goes beyond just the board.
Okay.
The language takeaway in the audio points out that the word pawn isn't only for chess.
Right.
It's used more broadly in strategy to describe something or someone not that important, often used to distract or manipulate an opponent.
Uh-huh.
They even give this stark example. He used her as a pawn in his little game.
Oh, wow.
That really brings the concept to life.
It does. And, if we zoom out a bit, it shows how concepts and terms from games like chess actually seep into our everyday language, and even how we understand human interactions and power dynamics.
Right.
That idea of someone being manipulated or sacrificed for a bigger goal, it resonates far beyond the chessboard.
Yeah.
It makes you think about all the hidden strategies at play in so many situations.
It does give you a new perspective, not just on the game, but on how language reflects strategic thinking in real life.
Definitely.
Okay, so we've covered the pawns. Let's move on to a piece that seems a bit more imposing.
Okay.
The rook. The audio describes it as looking like a tower.
Right. Each player has two of these stationed at the corner.
Yeah, the corners of the board.
Right.
And their movement is all about straight lines, right?
Exactly. Forward, backward, sideways.
Uh-huh.
They can move any number of unoccupied squares along a rank, which is a horizontal row, or a file, which is a vertical column.
Okay.
So they can potentially control a huge chunk of the board.
That's a lot of power.
It is. And their ability to move across the entire board makes them incredibly valuable.
Yeah.
Especially as the game progresses and the board opens up.
Yeah.
Fewer pieces blocking their path. The audio even says they could do a lot of damage in the endgame.
Oh, really?
This is a key strategic point. Rooks become more influential as the game goes on.
Which is so interesting because they seem a bit passive at first when they're tucked away in those corners. Right. But as pieces get exchanged and those lines open up, the rooks can really change the game.
Absolutely.
Putting so much pressure on the opponent.
Their long reach and ability to control entire ranks and files makes them a constant threat.
Wow.
Your opponent always has to be aware of them and plan around them.
So don't forget about the power of the tower.
Definitely not. Controlling open files with your rooks is often a crucial objective.
All right, moving inward, we have the bishop.
Okay, the bishop.
The audio playfully calls it the one with the tall hat.
I like that.
Again, each player starts with two bishops.
How do these pieces move around?
Well, the bishop's movement is very different from the rook's straight lines.
Okay.
Bishops move diagonally any number of unoccupied squares.
But here's a key thing about bishops. Each bishop stays on the color of the square it started on.
Oh, that's right.
Either all white squares or all black squares.
So you have one on the light squares and one on the dark squares.
Exactly. And that limits the squares they can go to, but it also gives them complete control over those specific diagonal lines.
I see.
This color restriction means a bishop can never directly attack a piece on a square of the opposite color.
Uh-huh.
However, their ability to control those long diagonals is very powerful, both for attacking from a distance and defending key areas.
Yeah.
They can be especially effective in open games where there are fewer pieces blocking their path.
Okay, so we have the straight shooting rooks and the diagonally moving bishops.
Right.
Now, for a piece that moves in a totally unique way, the knight.
The knight.
The audio calls it this little horsey.
You.
And even connects it to those old stories of King Arthur.
Yeah, it definitely has a more whimsical feel compared to the other pieces.
It does, and its movement is just as distinctive.
You know that L shape?
The L shape.
Two squares in one direction, horizontally or vertically, and then one square perpendicularly.
Right.
And the knight is also the only piece that can actually jump over other pieces,
What?
whether they're your own or your opponent's.
That's wild. That L shape has always been the hardest for me to grasp when I've tried to learn chess.
Yeah,
The audio calls it weird. And the drunken piece?
we love that.
It's not a straight line. It's not a diagonal. It's this quirky 2+1 pattern.
But that seemingly random movement is what makes the knight so strategically valuable. It can bypass blockades and attack squares that other pieces just can't reach directly.
I see.
That makes them really effective when the board is crowded.
And the audio stresses that it's a very important piece
Oh, yeah.
and warns against letting your opponent capture it easily.
You don't want to lose your knight.
So despite its unusual movement, this little horsey is not to be underestimated.
Definitely not. Knights are especially powerful in closed positions where there are lots of pawns and pieces bunched together. Their jumping ability gives them an edge over those long-range pieces, like rooks and bishops,
Okay.
whose lines of attack can be easily blocked.
So now we're on to what the audio calls the power couple of the chessboard.
Oh, the king and queen.
The queen and the king. Let's start with the king.
Okay.
The audio describes him as being kind of sad because he can only move one square in any direction.
Ah,
Forward, backward, sideways, diagonally.
yeah. For the most important piece, he's got surprisingly limited mobility.
He does.
But, that restricted movement reflects his importance.
Mm-hmm.
He's the one you have to protect at all costs.
Right.
While he can move in all those directions, only being able to move one square at a time makes him very vulnerable.
Especially later in the game when things open up.
Exactly.
Then you have the queen, who the audio calls the killer,
The queen.
who can do anything she wants.
Powerful.
Such a contrast to the king's little steps.
It is the queen is the most powerful piece on the board
Wow.
because she combines the movement of the rook and the bishop. She can move any number of unoccupied squares in any direction, horizontally, vertically, diagonally.
So basically, she has free reign.
Pretty much can do anything she wants. Sums it up perfectly.
The audio even makes this analogy that it's like the queen has more freedom to move around while the king has to stay put and represent the country.
I love that.
It's a great way to think about their different roles and responsibilities in the game.
It really illustrates the strategic dynamic between them.
Right.
The queen is your main attacker, creating threats from all over, while the king is the vulnerable leader whose safety determines the entire game.
And that outcome ultimately depends on what happens to the king.
Right.
The audio is very clear. Once the king is captured, the game is over.
That's the objective.
So the goal is to put your opponent's king in a position where it's under attack.
Yes, what we call check.
Check.
And there's no legal move they can make to get their king out of danger.
Uh-huh.
That's checkmate.
Ah, checkmate. We hear that term all the time, even outside of chess, to mean like a final defeat. You can't escape.
It's become pretty common.
The audio clarifies that check happens when the king is in danger of being captured on the very next move.
Right, it's like a warning signal.
Yeah, an immediate threat.
And when a king is in check, that player has to make a move to deal with it right away.
Okay.
They might move the king to safety, capture the attacking piece, or sometimes block the attack with one of their own pieces.
So if there's absolutely no way to get the king out of danger, then it's checkmate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Game over, the battle is decided.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting for language nerds like me.
Okay, tell me.
The Pop Quiz Insight in the audio talks about where the word checkmate comes from.
Yeah.
And it turns out it doesn't actually mean the king is dead.
Oh.
Like you might think. It actually comes from Persian words that mean the king is captured or the king is defeated.
That's fascinating.
Right.
It really changes how you think about checkmate.
I-
It's not about physically removing the king from the board. It's about capturing him strategically, which ends the conflict.
It's a subtle but important difference.
It is. It emphasizes strategic defeat rather than just annihilation.
And it's amazing to think about how this word traveled from Persian to Arabic, then to French, and finally into English.
What a journey.
The audio even mentions the Spanish translation hikmate
Uh-huh.
and points out that the mate part might not perfectly capture the original meaning.
Yeah, in translations, sometimes those nuances get lost.
It's a good reminder that even simple words we use all the time can have these rich hidden histories.
It really is.
And the audio encourages listeners to share how they say checkmate in their own languages.
I love that idea. It's a great way to connect with the global chess community
I agree.
and appreciate the international aspect of the game.
Okay, so we've covered the main pieces of the chess army and the goal of the game.
Checkmate.
Checkmate.
Yes.
The audio also has this fluency builder section that focuses on some of the language used when we talk about chess. Right.
So let's go through these language takeaways.
Okay, sounds good.
First up, we have to move diagonally, or a diagonal line.
Diagonals.
The audio explains it really clearly. It's a line that goes at an angle, not straight across or up and down.
Like at a 45-degree or 30-degree angle.
Right, it's that slanting direction.
And that concept goes way beyond chess.
It does.
Understanding diagonals is important for visualizing the movement of pieces like the bishop and how pawns capture.
Right.
But it's also crucial in things like geometry and math and even just spatial reasoning in everyday life.
Then we have that cute phrase, a little horsey for the night.
Oh.
The audio points out that we often add endings like yai or ie to words
Yeah.
to make them sound smaller, cuter, more affectionate.
Like little puppy or little kitty.
Exactly.
It's like baby talk. Those rhyming diminutives like mommy and doggy.
So even in a strategic game, we use this informal language.
We do. It's interesting, right?
Yeah.
It's a really common thing in languages all over the world.
Right. We use diminutives to express affection, to indicate small size, or just to be playful.
It's kind of funny to see it used for a chess piece.
It is. Maybe it softens the combative aspect a little.
Next, we have the verb to capture.
To capture.
The audio explains this as taking your opponent's piece off the board and keeping it.
Uh-huh.
It distinguishes it from killing, which is more aggressive.
Right.
And they even use the example of capture the flag
Oh, that's a good one.
to help us understand.
It is.
So in chess, capture emphasizes that you're strategically taking your opponent's forces.
Rather than just destroying them.
Right. And the capture the flag analogy shows that idea of taking control of something valuable in a game.
Yeah. And the audio mentions how the Spanish say, to eat the other piece.
Oh, right. Comerlo la otra pieza.
It's interesting how different cultures have different ways of describing the same action.
Yeah, and finally, the fluency builder goes back to those key terms check and checkmate.
The essentials.
Just make sure we remember what they mean.
Right.
Check is when the king is in danger. And checkmate is when the king is trapped and the game is over.
Clear and simple.
So to sum it all up, we've gone through the initial setup of the board.
16 pieces per player.
The wall of pawns, the powerful rooks, the agile knights, the strategic bishops, and the central command with the king and the queen.
A formidable army.
We've explored how each piece moves the pawn's march and capture the rook's straight lines, the bishop's diagonals, the knight's L shape the king's careful steps, and the queen's freedom.
And we've covered how the game ends.
Right.
The tension of check and the finality of checkmate.
Plus that fascinating history of the word checkmate.
From Persian all the way to English.
So whether you were coming in knowing nothing about chess or you just wanted a refresher on the basics, you now have a solid understanding of the game.
You know the pieces, you know how they move, and you know the goal.
And if we go back to our initial question, is it a game or is it a sport?
Yeah.
Having seen all these intricate pieces and how they interact strategically, it's clear that chess is a serious mental challenge.
It requires so much planning and focus and competitive spirit.
Absolutely.
It's not just a casual pastime. It's a complex mental battle.
So for our final thought, building on that idea that checkmate means the king is captured.
Not killed.
Right, not literally killed.
Right.
Think about this. How might understanding the true meanings of other words and concepts, both in games and in life, change how we see them?
It's an interesting question.
There might be hidden depths and nuances in the words we use every day.
That's so true. So our mission today isn't to become grammar experts, though that wouldn't hurt.
No, today we're looking at what this simple dialogue about ping pong can teach us about what makes something more than just a casual activity.
We're going to look at the rules, how much skill it takes, even the words we use to talk about it. Ready to dive in?
Let's do it.
All right, so our source material starts with a pretty typical scene, right? A dad and his daughter, Lily, are setting up a ping pong table in their garage. Like, it's almost like a movie montage moment, right?
Totally. I can picture it now. And right off the bat, Lily mentioned she doesn't remember all the rules.
Yeah, and that tells us right away that there's a structure to this thing. This isn't just randomly hitting a ball back and forth. There are actual guidelines.
Totally. And the dad starts explaining, breaking down the basics, like with the serve. He tells her, first, we serve diagonally. The ball must bounce once on your side and once on mine.
It's so interesting how even that first instruction brings in a level of technique, right? You have to think about the angles, where the ball is going to land. It's not just about getting it over the net.
There's strategy baked in from the very beginning, and then they talk about scoring. The dad explains they'll play to 11, but, and this is key, you have to win by 2 points.
Oh yeah, that win by 2 rule, that always makes things more intense.
Absolutely. It's not enough to just reach 11. You need a clear advantage. And that changes how you play, how you think about each point, especially when the score is close.
It's like a whole psychological layer on top of just hitting the ball.
Exactly. Each point becomes more crucial, and you have to stay focused, even under pressure. It adds this whole other dimension to the game. And then Lily asks this question that I'm sure we've all wondered at some point. What happens when the ball hits the net?
Oh yeah, the dreaded net ball. Does it count? Is it a do-over? What's the deal?
And the dad explains the let serve rule. If the ball hits the net on a serve, but still lands on the other side correctly, they just redo the serve.
So even these little accidental things have specific rules.
Right, and it's not just about being picky. These rules ensure things are fair. They take out some of the randomness, the luck factor, and make it more about skill.
That makes sense. And after they've gone over some of the rules, Lily says, okay, I'm ready. Just go easy on me, okay?
And her dad replies, jokingly, no promises, which, even in a casual father-daughter match, you can sense that competitive spirit.
Oh, absolutely. It's like this underlying drive to, to do well, even if you're just playing for fun.
Yeah, there's that instinct to win, even if it's just for bragging rights. So, this brings us to the big question, right? Game or sport? Based on what we've seen so far, those rules, the scoring, even that hint of competition, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the source itself actually describes table tennis as needing hand-eye coordination, quick reflexes, and serious skill.
Hmm,
Does that sound like a casual game to you?
not really. Those are things we typically associate with athletic activities, like hand-eye coordination. That's important in so many sports, right? Catching a baseball, playing tennis.
And quick reflexes, you need those in boxing, in basketball, in anything where you have to react fast. And then it says serious skill. So it's not just knowing the rules. You have to practice. You have to put in the effort to get good.
Yeah, there's a level of mastery involved. And then our source goes even further. It compares table tennis to, get this, chess. It says, just like we talked about with chess in our last episode, there's a lot more strategy in table tennis than people think.
And we all know chess is all about strategy. It's like a mental workout. So if table tennis is being compared to chess, that tells you there's a lot more going on than just hitting a ball.
It's like a high-speed chess match where every move matters. You have to think about where to place the ball, how much spin to put on it, what your opponent is going to do next.
It's a whole mental game on top of the physical one. And the source makes a point of contrasting this casual garage game scenario with, quote, serious competitive sport, where the pros are moving so fast it's mind-blowing.
Yeah, and that difference in how seriously people take it, the level of skill involved, that's something we have to consider. It's like you can enjoy a leisurely bike ride in the park, or you can train to compete in the Tour de France.
Same activity, but a totally different level of commitment. So let's look at the language for a minute. The language takeaway section of our source defines words like serve diagonally, bounce, win by 2 points, and let serve. These aren't just like casual descriptions. These are precise terms specific to table tennis.
And that's important. Like, think of any sport. They all have their own specific vocabulary. It allows people who play to communicate clearly to understand each other. Like a foul ball in baseball, offside in soccer, an ace in tennis.
So the fact that table tennis has its own lingo, its own dictionary almost, does that suggest it's more formalized, more structured than just a game?
It definitely points in that direction. It shows there's a shared understanding of what these words mean, a level of seriousness.
And then there's the fluency builder section, where it focuses on everyday language used in the dialogue. Things like, go easy on me and redo.
Which, while they're not specific to table tennis, they add another layer to the conversation, don't they?
Yeah, like Lily asking her dad to go easy on her. I mean, who hasn't said that when they're learning something new or playing against someone way better than them? It's so relatable.
Totally. It shows the human side of things, the interaction between people, the learning process.
And redo, as it's explained, well, it obviously relates to the let serve situation, but it's also a word we use in so many different contexts. So this simple ping pong dialogue is also a way to learn and use language in a broader sense.
Exactly. It's like even something seemingly simple can be a springboard for understanding language and how we use it in everyday life.
And then at the very end, our source has this interactive question for the audience. It asks, do you think table tennis is a sport or just a game? And also, do you play it casually or have you ever tried playing competitively?
And that's the question we've been wrestling with this whole time, right? It's a question that makes you think. Because as we've seen, there's no easy answer.
Yeah, it depends on your perspective, on your experience. Maybe you've only ever played ping pong at a barbecue, just messing around. Or maybe you've seen those intense matches where the players are like lightning.
Right. It can be both, depending on how you approach it. So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, let's go back to the beginning. We've looked at the rules, the skills, the strategy, the competition, even the language. So is it a game or a sport?
Yeah. What are your final thoughts on all of this?
I think it's safe to say that table tennis has many of the hallmarks of a sport. It's got specific rules that are enforced. It requires hand-eye coordination, reflexes, and developed skills. There's a lot of strategic thinking involved.
And it's organized competitively with leagues and tournaments all the way up to the professional level.
Exactly. It's taken seriously by a lot of people, and it demands a lot of those who play at a high level. But at the same time, it's got this easygoing side, this accessibility that lets anyone pick up a paddle and have fun.
It's like it walks this line between the two. You can play it just for fun, or you can dedicate yourself to mastering it.
And I think that's what makes it so interesting. It's got this duality to it. It can be both a casual game and a serious sport.
So to all you listeners out there, we hope this deep dive has made you think differently about ping pong. The next time you see that little white ball bouncing around, maybe you'll see it in a new light.
And maybe, just maybe, you'll wonder if you've got what it takes to go beyond the casual game and really challenge yourself.
So it's really remarkable, isn't it,
It is.
that this game that captivates so many people
Right.
also has this rich vocabulary, like a shorthand for all this strategy and teamwork
It's true.
that goes on in
Yeah.
this sport.
Yeah.
Our source today gives us kind of like a peek behind the curtain.
Oh, okay.
We're actually going to be looking at a coach talking to their players
Cool.
right before a big match.
Oh, wow.
So think of this as like a concentrated dose of English language
Okay.
being used in like a high-stakes,
Yeah.
team-oriented situation.
I like it.
Now, you might be thinking 5 hours on football language,
Yeah, that's a long time.
even if it helps me understand team dynamics.
Right.
That sounds like a serious commitment.
It does sound like a huge commitment.
And you're right.
Yeah.
We're not going to do a full 5-hour marathon today,
Okay, good.
but think of this deep dive as the highlights reel.
Okay.
We're going to give you the most fascinating
Yeah.
and immediately useful insights
Right.
distilled from what could easily be that long of a conversation.
I see.
Why should you care?
Yeah, why should I care?
Because
Okay.
the principles that we'll uncover in this football vocabulary,
Yeah.
things like teamwork, clear communication under pressure, strategic thinking, these aren't just confined to the pitch.
Right.
Understanding how these are expressed in this context
Yeah.
can give you surprising aha moments
Really?
that apply to your own work, your hobbies, any situation where people need to collaborate effectively. Our mission
Yeah, what's our mission?
is to extract those key language nuggets
Okay.
and show you their wider relevance.
That sounds good.
So imagine sitting in that locker room with the players
Okay.
and hearing the coach's final instructions.
Right.
You know, it's a moment charged with anticipation.
Yeah, it's a big moment.
Right.
Totally.
The coach's words are crucial.
Yeah.
They need to be clear, concise, and motivating.
It's true.
Our source material captures that dynamic perfectly.
Oh, wow.
Okay, Bob. So let's get right into it.
All right, let's do it.
The scene is set just before a tough match.
Okay.
And one of the first things the coach says is stick to your positions.
Stick to your positions.
And our source explains this simply as stay in your assigned role or area.
Okay, so everyone stay where they're supposed to be.
Now, even if you've never set foot on a football field,
Right.
think about any team you've been a part of.
Okay.
What happens when people aren't clear on what they're supposed to be doing?
Oh, it's chaos.
Or when someone tries to do someone else's job?
Yeah. Total chaos.
It can lead to chaos, right?
Yeah, it can.
So in football, if a defender suddenly decides to become a striker,
Yeah.
well, it leaves a gap in the defense.
Makes sense.
So that instruction, stick to your positions, isn't just about physical location on the field.
I see.
It speaks to this like fundamental principle
Yeah.
of clearly defined roles
Right.
and responsibilities within any team.
Yeah.
When everyone understands their function
Right.
and focuses on executing it effectively,
Yeah.
it creates a sense of stability
Okay.
and trust.
Makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
So imagine a jazz ensemble.
Okay. I like jazz.
Each musician has their instrument
Right.
and their part to play.
Yeah.
If the trumpet player suddenly tries to play the drums,
Yeah.
the harmony breaks down.
That'd sound terrible.
Right.
Yeah.
And this raises a really interesting point for you.
Okay, what's that?
How well defined are the roles within your own teams? And what's the impact when those boundaries are blurred?
Yeah, that's a good question to think about.
The coach also emphasizes pass quickly,
Pass quickly.
which means to move the ball fast between teammates.
Okay, keep that ball moving.
What's the non-sport equivalent of that?
Outside of sports.
In a fast-paced project at work or something?
Oh, I see.
Isn't efficient communication like passing quickly?
Yeah, you could think about it like that.
You need to get information to the right people swiftly
Right.
and accurately
Yeah.
to keep things moving forward.
Makes sense.
If the pass,
Yeah.
like the information is slow
Right.
or inaccurate,
Yeah.
the whole the whole project can stall.
It's true. You can kind of lose momentum.
Yeah, you lose momentum.
Yeah.
And that urgency in pass quickly.
Yeah.
It isn't just about the speed of the ball.
Okay.
It reflects this dynamic nature of teamwork
Right.
where opportunities can be fleeting.
Yeah.
Right.
They can be fleeting.
So just like a delayed pass can allow the opposing team to intercept,
Right.
slow communication in a business setting can lead to missed opportunities.
Yeah, or allow competitors to kind of get ahead of you.
Right, or allow competitors to gain an advantage.
Exactly.
So the underlying insight here
Yeah.
is the critical importance of flow
Okay.
and responsiveness
Yeah,
in any collaborative endeavor,
I see.
whether that's a physical pass
Right.
or the transfer of information.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Next, the coach says, keep pressure on,
Keep pressure
which
on.
our source defines as continue attacking
Right.
or staying close to your opponent.
Yeah, don't give them any space.
You might not be physically pressuring opponents in our daily lives.
Right, hopefully not.
But
Unless you play sports.
what about the idea of maintaining focus
Okay.
and proactivity
Right.
in pursuing our goals?
Okay.
If you're working on a big presentation,
Yeah.
you can't just do a little bit
Right.
and then relax for days,
Yeah.
right?
You got to keep working.
You need to keep pressure on yourself
Yeah.
to stay on track and meet that deadline.
That's true.
So keeping pressure on
Yeah.
speaks to the power of sustained effort
Okay.
and the danger of complacency,
I see.
whether it's consistently following up with clients,
Right.
diligently working towards a long-term personal goal,
Yeah.
or continuously innovating in a competitive market.
It's true.
That principle of maintaining momentum is vital.
It is.
It's about not giving the opposition,
right.
be it a challenge, a competitor,
Yeah.
or even your own procrastination,
It's true. Procrastination can be the enemy.
a chance to gain an advantage.
Yeah.
So what are some areas in your own life where you found that consistently keeping pressure on
Yeah.
has led to success?
That's a good question.
Then there's the instruction to mark,
To mark.
which means to stay close to an opposing player to stop them.
Okay, so really shut them down.
This is a core defensive tactic in football.
Yeah, makes sense.
So if we think about a broader context, in what situations might you need to keep a close eye on something or someone
Oh, okay.
in a figurative sense?
I like that figurative sense.
Maybe monitoring a competitor's marketing campaigns
Oh, okay.
to see what they're up to.
Yeah, you've got to know what they're doing.
So while marking literally refers to physical proximity in football,
Right.
the underlying principle
Yeah.
is about proactive disruption
Okay.
and denying space to key threats. So in a business context,
Yeah.
this could involve closely monitoring a competitor's product launches
Right.
and proactively adjusting your own strategy to counter their moves,
Makes sense.
not just passively observing.
Right. You've got to actually do something.
You've got to actually do something.
Yeah.
So it's about anticipating potential challenges
Right.
and positioning yourself to neutralize them.
That's really smart.
The coach also talks about the striker,
The striker.
who is the main attacking player,
Okay.
usually the one who scores goals.
Right. The one who gets the points.
So in any team,
Yeah. Who or what plays the role of the striker
oh,
in terms of driving results?
Mm.
It might not always be a single individual,
Right.
but there's usually a primary force
Okay.
that's focused on achieving the main objective,
That makes sense.
identifying and supporting your strikers.
So the people who are really...
Those who are directly contributing to achieving key outcomes
Yeah. Okay.
is crucial for success.
Right.
It's about recognizing where that primary driving force lies
Yeah.
and ensuring that they have the resources and support they need.
Makes sense.
The coach also prepares the team for the possibility of losing possession,
Losing possession.
which naturally means to lose control of the ball.
Oh, wow.
And we've all experienced this in different ways,
True.
haven't we?
Yeah.
You know, a project you were leading
Yeah.
suddenly goes off track,
Right.
or a carefully constructed plan falls apart.
That's the worst.
The initial setback is one thing,
Yeah.
but what's really important is how you and your team react and recover. Yeah, you've got to have a backup plan.
Losing possession is almost inevitable in any dynamic environment, whether it's a football match
Yeah.
or a complex business venture.
Yeah.
The critical factor is resilience
Okay.
and the ability to regain control.
Right.
So the coach's subsequent instructions would likely focus on how to react
Okay.
when possession is lost,
Yeah.
how to defend, regroup, and try to win the ball back.
Right.
This mirrors the importance of having contingency plans
Yeah.
and recovery strategies in place.
Absolutely.
When things don't go as expected in other fields,
Yeah.
it's about learning from setbacks and quickly adapting your approach.
That's a good way to look at it.
And then the coach might say something like fallback,
Fall back.
meaning to move back to defend.
Okay.
Sometimes the smartest move isn't to keep pushing forward relentlessly,
Right.
especially if you're under pressure.
Yeah. Sometimes you need to regroup.
Instead, it might be wiser to fall back,
Okay.
reassess your strategy, and protect what you have.
Yeah.
Can you recall a situation where Taking a strategic pause
Hmm.
or a step back actually led to a better outcome for you in the long run.
Oh, that's an interesting question.
So falling back demonstrates strategic thinking
Okay.
and the understanding that sometimes a tactical retreat is necessary
Right.
to regroup
Yeah.
and avoid being overwhelmed.
Makes sense.
It's not about giving up.
Right.
It's about recognizing when an offensive approach isn't working
Yeah.
and prioritizing defense to secure your current position before attempting to regain the initiative.
That's really smart.
This requires a degree of flexibility
Yeah.
and the ability to adapt your strategy
Right.
based on the circumstances.
Totally.
It's about knowing when to conserve energy and resources for a more opportune moment to advance.
Yeah, I like that.
And then there's the idea of block the midfield,
Block the midfield.
which means to prevent the other team from moving forward through the center of the pitch.
Oh, okay. So kind of like cut them off.
Think about how this might translate to other areas.
Okay. Yeah.
If you're trying to protect your team's progress on a major project,
Right.
what are some ways you might block the midfield to prevent distractions or obstacles
Oh, I see.
from derailing your focus and momentum?
Okay.
Perhaps setting clear boundaries
Right.
or prioritizing key
Makes
tasks.
sense.
So blocking the midfield represents a strategic effort to control a key area
Okay.
and restrict the opponent's ability to advance and create scoring opportunities.
Yeah. So you're kind of like protecting your territory.
Right.
Okay.
In a business context,
Yeah.
this could be seen as protecting your core market from competitors
Right.
by strengthening customer relationships
Yeah.
or by innovating to stay ahead.
Okay.
It's about establishing barriers
Right.
and focusing your efforts on neutralizing threats to your central objectives.
That makes sense.
What strikes me as so interesting is how these seemingly straightforward phrases
Yeah.
used in the context of a football game actually embody core principles of teamwork, strategy, and communication that are relevant
Wow.
in so many different areas of life.
That's true.
You can see parallels in how a surgical team operates,
Right.
how a musical ensemble coordinates,
Yeah.
even in how a family might work together to solve a problem.
That's true.
If we connect this to the bigger picture,
Okay.
the coach's language is designed to instill clarity
Right.
and a sense of shared purpose
Yeah.
in a very high-pressure environment.
It's true.
Each instruction,
Right.
even something as fundamental as stick to your positions,
Yeah.
contributes to the overall game plan.
It all works together.
The language is direct, actionable, and focused on the immediate task,
Right.
which is crucial when time is limited and the stakes are high.
Absolutely.
And this all leads us to a really important question for you, our listener.
Okay. What's that?
Thinking about the teams you're a part of,
Right.
whether at work, in your community, or even within your family.
Yeah.
How clearly defined are the positions and responsibilities?
That's a good one.
And how effectively and quickly
Uh,
does communication,
right.
the passing of information,
Yeah.
flow within those teams?
That's so important.
Understanding these dynamics, even through the lens of football language,
Yeah.
can be incredibly insightful.
It can be.
And now let's dig a little deeper into some specific expressions
Oh, okay.
that often come up in these kinds of team talks.
Right.
One that's almost universal
Okay.
is give it everything you've got.
Give it everything you've got.
You hear this everywhere, not just in sports.
That's true. It's a very common expression.
It's that call to action, meaning
Yeah.
to try your absolute best,
Okay.
to put in 100% effort.
Right. Leave it all out there.
Yeah, leave it all out there.
Yeah.
What's fascinating about this phrase
Yeah.
is its emotional resonance.
Okay.
It's more than just an instruction.
Right.
It's an appeal to commitment
Yeah.
and tapping into intrinsic motivation. It acknowledges that achieving challenging goals often requires going beyond what feels comfortable or easy,
Right. Pushing your limits.
pushing your limits.
Yeah.
That's why it resonates so strongly
Yeah.
across so many different fields and cultures.
It's true.
Our source provides a simple but relatable example.
Okay.
I've got a big exam tomorrow.
Right.
I'm going to give it everything I've got.
Yeah. That's a common one.
Now think about your own life,
Okay.
listener.
Yeah.
Can you recall a time when you either said this phrase
Right.
or deeply felt its meaning?
Yeah.
What were the circumstances?
Mm.
What did it feel like to give it everything you've got?
That's a good question.
Consider those pivotal moments.
Okay.
A crucial presentation that could determine the success of a project,
Yeah.
a challenging personal goal you've been working towards for months,
Right.
or even supporting a loved one through a difficult health crisis.
Yeah, those are all really big ones.
So giving it everything you've got
Yeah.
often marks a point where you're willing to expend all available energy
Right.
and focus on achieving a desired outcome.
It's like you're all in.
You're all in.
Yeah.
Another expression we wanted to explore in a little more detail
Okay.
is fallback.
Fall back.
We've already discussed its meaning in football,
Right.
moving to a defensive posture.
Right.
But in a broader sense,
Yeah.
it signifies the act of retreating
Okay.
or taking a step back
Yeah.
when necessary.
Makes sense.
The strategic wisdom in knowing when to fall back is often underestimated.
Yeah, it's true.
It requires a certain degree of self-awareness
Yeah.
and an objective assessment of the current situation.
Right.
Continuing to push forward
Yeah.
when the odds are against you
Yeah.
can be counterproductive and lead to greater losses.
It's true. Sometimes you just have to stop.
Falling back isn't about admitting defeat. It's about regrouping,
Okay.
reassessing your options,
Yeah.
and conserving resources for a more strategic advance later on.
I like.
It highlights the crucial importance of flexibility
Yeah.
and adaptability
Right.
in navigating complex challenges.
It's true.
So can you think of a time when falling back actually led to a better outcome for you? Perhaps a negotiation where you decided to step away from the table
Okay.
before agreeing to unfavorable terms.
Right.
Or a creative project where you hit a roadblock,
Yeah.
took a break to clear your head,
Yeah, I've done that.
and then returned with a fresh perspective.
Right.
Led to a breakthrough.
That's a good idea.
Reflecting on those experiences can provide valuable insights into the strategic use of retreat.
Yeah, I think you're right.
It's a reminder that progress isn't always a straight line,
Hmm.
and that sometimes a temporary step backward is essential for a significant leap forward.
It's true.
It's about recognizing the difference between perseverance
Right.
and stubbornness,
Yeah.
and having the courage to adjust your approach when needed.
It makes sense.
Now, our source includes a little practice time section, which I think is a great way to reinforce what we've been discussing.
Okay.
It poses some questions
Okay.
based on the phrases that we've covered.
Right.
So, for instance, it asks, stay close to the attacker.
Okay.
And the intended answer is mark the striker.
Mark the striker.
Or move quickly to a defensive position,
Hmm.
leading to the response, fall back.
Fall back. Okay.
And finally, do your best.
Okay.
With the answer being, give it everything you've got.
Give it everything you've got.
So these seemingly simple exercises are actually quite powerful
I see.
for solidifying understanding
Right.
and improving retention.
Okay.
By actively engaging with the material and recalling the appropriate phrases
Right.
in response to their meanings,
Yeah.
you're creating stronger neural connections in your memory.
Wow.
It's a much more effective way to learn than just passively listening to an explanation.
Yeah, that's true.
So listener, hopefully you were playing along and mentally answering those questions.
Yeah, were you playing along?
It's a fantastic way to really internalize these concepts
Okay.
and see how the football language connects to broader ideas about teamwork and strategy.
Yeah, I like that.
The source also includes some interactive questions for the audience,
Okay, what are those?
which are designed to encourage further reflection.
All right.
They ask things like, so what about you? Do you play football?
Yeah.
Or do you enjoy watching it?
Okay.
Who's your favorite team or player?
Okay.
Maybe Messi,
Right.
Ronaldo.
Yeah.
And have you ever heard these phrases during a match or while watching football in English?
Oh, that's interesting.
Take a moment to really think about these questions.
Okay.
Even if you've never been interested in football,
Yeah.
have you encountered the underlying concepts in other contexts?
Hmm.
We already talked about how marking a player
Yeah.
can be like monitoring a competitor in business.
Right.
What other parallels can you draw
Yeah.
between what happens on a football field
Right.
and what happens in your own life?
Yeah. What other connections can we make?
What's particularly valuable about these kinds of questions is that they prompt you to make personal connections to the language and the concepts.
I see.
This active engagement, linking new vocabulary and ideas to your existing knowledge and experiences,
Yeah.
is a cornerstone of effective learning.
It is.
It moves the understanding beyond a purely intellectual level
Okay.
and makes it more relevant and memorable.
Yeah. I can see that.
So as we start to wrap up this part of our deep dive,
Right.
I think it's clear that even this brief look at the language used before a football match
Yeah.
offers some surprisingly valuable insights
Okay.
into the fundamental principles of teamwork,
Yeah.
strategy, and communication.
It's true.
And these principles, as we've discussed, have applications far beyond the football pitch,
Right.
touching many different aspects of our lives.
Makes sense.
Hopefully you've had a few of those aha moments
I think I have.
we were aiming for.
I have too.
Now, consider this. We've spent a good amount of time exploring just a few key phrases
Yeah.
from a single brief pre-match talk.
Right.
Imagine the sheer depth and nuance of language we could uncover
Yeah.
if we were to really dedicate ourselves,
Okay.
say for 5 hours,
5 hours.
to exploring the full spectrum of football terminology.
That's a lot of time.
Think about the language used to describe different player positions,
Right.
intricate tactical formations,
Yeah.
the drama of iconic moments in football history,
Oh, wow.
or even the way the cultural impact of the sport is reflected in its language
Yeah.
across different countries.
That would be fascinating.
What incredibly fascinating linguistic landscapes might we discover
Wow.
if we embarked on that kind of extended exploration?
That's a great thought.
The specialized vocabulary within any field,
Yeah.
whether it's a sport like football,
Right.
a technical discipline like engineering,
Yeah.
or an art form like music,
It's true.
reflects a deep understanding of the activity itself and the complex strategic considerations involved.
It's true.
Each term carries a weight of meaning
Yeah.
that can unlock a deeper appreciation for the subject.
That makes sense.
So, as you go about your day,
Yeah.
continue to think about the questions we've raised.
Okay.
How do these concepts of sticking to your position,
Right.
communicating quickly,
Yeah.
maintaining pressure,
Okay.
and knowing when to strategically step back
Right.
resonate with your own experiences in teams?
Yeah.
To sound more,
Exactly.
like natural and fluent when you're talking to people.
I think it helps you sound really cool as well.
Yes.
It's like you're really in the know.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So
I mean,
let's just jump right into it.
yeah, let's kick it off.
Okay, so first up we got kickoff, and our source tells us that it basically means to start something.
Right.
And they give the example, let's kick off the meeting at 10 a.m.
Yeah. I mean, everyone uses that one.
Yeah, it's not
But-
just for football anymore, is it?
No, not at all. You can use it for anything, starting a project, even just starting your day,
Yeah, totally. It's like that image of that first kick just gets things moving.
The momentum.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so moving on. We
Okay.
got it's a game changer.
Oh, yeah. This is a good one.
This one feels big.
It does.
Our source defines it as something that completely changes the outcome.
Right. Like a total shift.
Yeah, and they give the example of learning English with real conversation. Total game changer.
Uh-huh. I love that.
I mean, when you think about it, though, like
Yeah.
in a game, when something happens and it just like flips everything on its head,
Oh, yeah.
it's a big deal.
It is a big deal.
And you can apply that to so many things, like a new technology that comes out, or
A new strategy.
a new strategy, or even just like a new way of thinking about a problem,
Yeah, that's so true.
That could be a game changer.
Definitely.
Okay, so next we have on the ball.
Okay.
So the source defines this one as being alert, sharp, and prepared.
I like that.
And they give the example.
Mm.
That teacher is really on the ball. She notices everything.
Oh, yeah. I've definitely had a few teachers like that.
Yeah, me too. So what do you think is the essence of like being on the ball?
I think it's about being really proactive,
Yeah.
Not waiting for things to happen, but like anticipating them and being ready to respond.
Yeah, it's like you're one step ahead.
Exactly.
You're not caught off guard.
They're ready for anything.
You're on it. Okay, so the last one we'll look at is move the goalposts.
Oh, this is a classic.
I know, right?
Okay.
So the source defines this one as, when someone changes the rules or expectations.
It's so annoying.
It is so annoying. And it can be really unfair too, right?
Totally. Like you're working towards something and then suddenly the target has moved.
Yeah, and they give the example. He said we'd meet at 6, but now he's moving the goalposts again.
Yeah, classic.
So frustrating.
Ugh, I hate when that happens.
Okay, so I think this is a good place to pause for a second and just
Yeah.
acknowledge the connection between sports and culture and language.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like all of these phrases we've been talking about,
They come from football, but
they come straight from football.
everyone uses them.
But we use them all the time.
It's amazing how much language comes from sports.
It's true. And, understanding these phrases, it does make your English sound more fluent and natural.
For sure, because you're connecting with people on a cultural level.
Yeah.
You're showing that you understand their references.
Totally. All right, so let's just do a quick rundown of a few more phrases from the Fluency Builder section.
Oh, yeah, this is a great section.
It is. So we've got stick to your positions
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
and keep pressure on, fall back, lose possession, give it everything you've got.
You know, what's interesting to me is that all of these phrases, they come from football, but you can apply them to so many different areas of life.
Exactly.
Like, stick to your positions. That could be in a negotiation or even just a disagreement with a friend, you know?
Totally. And keep pressure on. Could be at work, trying to meet a deadline.
Or even like at the gym.
Yeah, exactly. Or in a workout. Yeah. And then fallback could be about like retreating from a bad argument.
Oh, that's a good one.
Right. Or changing your strategy.
Exactly. And lose possession. I mean, that could describe anything where you lose control of a situation.
Right. And then give it everything you've got. That's just like a universal.
That's a life motto.
It is. It's a life motto.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we already talked about kick off, game changer on the ball, and move the goalposts.
It's so cool how these ideas, they go way beyond football, you know?
They do.
They're just part of how we talk about life.
They really are. So hopefully you guys listening are starting to see how these football expressions are more than just sports jargon.
Yeah.
They're a lively part of everyday English.
So we'd love to hear from you guys.
Yeah.
Like, which of these phrases resonated with you the most, and how could you see yourself using it in real life?
It's been a while.
Right, like dusting off that old guitar, or finally putting on those running shoes that have been sitting in the closet forever.
It's that moment when you want to jump back in, but you also kind of want like a crash course just to get up to speed quickly.
Absolutely. You want to understand the core parts, the essentials, enough to be able to participate without feeling totally lost.
Exactly. So you don't feel overwhelmed by all the details right away. And that's what we're doing today. We're taking a bit of a deep dive into something that might seem like just a simple, fun activity.
Oh, interesting. What is it?
Badminton.
Oh, cool. Badminton. I can see that. So are we looking at like professional matches? Or?
Actually, our source for this deep dive is a conversation between two friends, Amy and Ben. They're meeting up to play badminton.
Okay, so a more casual approach to the game then.
Exactly. They're just hanging out at their local community center. It's actually from a resource for people learning English. So they break down the basics in a really clear way.
That makes sense, breaking it down step by step.
Yeah. And what's fascinating is that even though it's a casual conversation, we get a glimpse into the real way people actually play and talk about badminton.
Oh, I see. So it's like we're getting the inside scoop on not just the rules, but like the culture too.
Exactly. Think of this as your shortcut to understanding badminton, whether you want to pick up a racket yourself or just watch a game on TV.
Right, so you're not just watching a bunch of people hitting a birdie back and forth. You actually know what's going on.
Exactly. We're aiming for that sweet spot, giving you enough knowledge to feel comfortable with badminton without overloading you.
And by focusing on this dialogue, we're not just learning the rules, but also how people actually talk about the game, like what words they use, the tone.
Exactly. It makes it so much more practical and relatable. So, are you ready to dive in with Amy and Ben?
Let's do it. I'm curious to see how this casual approach unfolds.
Okay, so it all starts with Ben, and he's got this super casual invitation for Amy. He says, yeah, every Saturday morning, wanna join. So straightforward, right?
Straight to the point, no fuss.
Right, just wanna join. And you know what's interesting about that phrase?
What's that?
It's such a common way to invite someone to do something, especially in casual settings. Like, you wouldn't use it in a business meeting, right?
Definitely not. But between friends, it's perfect.
Right. It's like, want to grab some coffee or want to check out that new movie. It's that relaxed, low-pressure way of suggesting something.
Makes you feel at ease.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Amy's in. But she hasn't played badminton in a while, which leads to her first question, and it's about the serve. She asks, just remind me, do we serve underhand or overhand? Now, this might seem like a basic question, but it's super important in badminton.
Oh, for sure. I actually remember struggling with this when I first tried badminton.
Really?
Yeah, I kept wanting to serve overhand, like in tennis.
Right, because it seems so natural, right, to just smash it over the net.
Exactly.
But Ben clarifies the rule, and this is crucial. In badminton, you always serve underhand.
Okay, so that's a key difference from other racket sports.
Exactly. The shuttlecock has to be hit below your waist. No overhand power serves here.
And is there a reason for that? Why underhand?
You know, that's a really good question. And while our source doesn't explicitly say why, I think it has something to do with the nature of badminton.
What do you mean?
It's a sport that's all about finesse, control, and those long, exciting rallies.
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
An overhand serve with all that power could potentially end the point too quickly. And it might also be harder to control with the shuttlecock being so light.
That makes a lot of sense. It's about setting up a point, a back and forth, not just trying to dominate from the get-go.
Exactly. And then Ben adds another crucial detail about the serve. He says, and the shuttle has to land inside the opposite service box. Now, for those who aren't familiar with badminton courts.
The service box, what even is that?
Right. It sounds important. So imagine you've got the badminton court divided by the net.
Okay, got it. Two halves.
Now, on each half, picture another line running closer to the net. This creates the service box, which is like a target area on your opponent's side.
Gotcha. So it's not enough to just get it over the net. It has to land in that specific box.
Precisely. And just to add a little more detail, the size of that service box actually changes a bit, depending on if you're playing singles or doubles.
Oh, interesting. So there are different boxes for different game types.
Yep. In singles, it's narrower, but in doubles, it's a bit wider. So when you serve, your shuttlecock needs to land in the opposite service box. It's a rule from the very first hit.
Okay, so it's like strategic placement right from the start.
Absolutely. And the language here is key. Serve underhand, that's the technique, and service box, that's your target zone. You can't really talk badminton without knowing those two terms.
Got it. Those are definitely going into my mental badminton glossary.
Exactly. They're the foundation. And after Amy gets a refresher on serving, she has another question that's probably on everyone's mind when learning a new game.
Let me guess. Scoring. How do you keep track of who's winning?
You got it. And Ben explains it pretty clearly. It's rally scoring, every serve counts. Play to 21, and you have to win by 2.
Okay, break that down for me. Rally scoring.
It means that you score a point on every rally, no matter who served. It's different from older scoring systems where only the serving player could score.
Oh, I see. So that keeps things moving. And every point has the same weight. No waiting around just to serve and score.
Exactly. Every rally matters. And Ben adds, play to 21, and you have to win by 2. So it's not just about reaching 21 points first. You also need to be ahead by at least 2 points.
That's a bit of drama, doesn't it?
For sure. It can lead to some really intense finishes. If the score is 20-20, you got to keep playing until someone has a 2-point lead.
Wow. So it could theoretically go on forever.
Well, almost. Yeah. There's actually a cap at 30 points.
Mm-hmm.
If it gets to 29-29, the next point wins, no matter what.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. There has to be an end somewhere.
Right. Now, after all that, Amy makes a comment that I think many of us can relate to. Nice. I'm a little rusty, so go easy on me at first.
Rusty. I love that word. It's so perfect for that feeling of being out of practice.
Right. It's like your skills have gathered a bit of dust.
Mm.
And our source, Crystal, actually explains what rusty means. They say it's a casual way to say that you're out of practice.
And they give a great example, too. I haven't spoken English in a while, so I'm a little rusty.
Exactly. And it works for so many things, like my piano skills are a little rusty, or my coding is a little rusty. It's such a handy phrase.
It is, and way more fun than just saying, I'm out of practice.
Right. Adds a bit of personality. So we've got rusty covered. What's the next interesting phrase we can take away from this conversation?
Well, let's go back to Ben's invitation. Wanna join? Our source points out that this is a super common, informal way to say, do you want to join?
It's like we're cutting corners with our words, right? But in a good way.
Yeah, like a shortcut. And it instantly creates this friendly, casual vibe.
Totally. It's something you'd say to a friend, not your boss.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It shows that you're comfortable and relaxed with the person you're talking to.
And it's so efficient. Just 2 words to get the message across. Wanna join. Wanna eat.
Yeah.
Wanna go. It rolls off the tongue.
I know, right? And now, to make sure we really remember these terms, Crystal has a vocabulary review. Want to go through it?
Let's do it. What's first on the list?
Serve underhand. We've talked about this already. It's that essential technique for starting a rally in badminton. Always underhand, below the waist.
Got it. What's next?
It's the object of the game itself. The shuttle, or shuttlecock.
Ah, are those 2 words basically the same?
Pretty much. Shuttlecock is the more formal, traditional name, but shuttle is what most people use casually.
Like when you're just chatting about the game with friends.
Exactly. No need to get all fancy with shuttle talk, unless you're writing a rule book or something.
Okay, next up.
Service box. The specific area where your serve has to land, which, as we learned, can change a bit depending on singles or doubles.
Right, it's all about that strategic placement. What else is on the list?
Rally scoring, where every rally results in a point, no matter who served.
That was a game changer for sure. And we already covered rusty, feeling out of practice. So what's the last one?
Go easy on me. It's that polite request you make when you don't want your opponent to play too aggressively.
Yeah, like, hey, I'm just getting back into this. Let's keep it fun and friendly.
Exactly. It's all about making sure everyone has a good time, especially when you're just playing for fun. Now, how about we test our knowledge a bit? Crystal has this you try section, which we can turn into a little mental exercise.
Oh, I like that. Quiz me.
Okay, here's the definition. A point is scored on every rally, regardless of who served. What's that called?
Rally score.
You got it. See, you're already becoming a badminton expert.
Huh. I wish. Okay, what's next?
You haven't done something in a while, and your skills aren't as good as they used to be. What word would you use to describe that feeling?
Rusty. Like an old bike left out in the rain.
Perfect. And last one. What do you call the thing you hit back and forth in badminton?
The shuttle. Or shuttlecock, if I'm feeling fancy.
You nailed it.
Okay, so we've covered the basics of serving. That you always serve underhand and aim for the opposite service box. We talked about rally scoring, playing 21 points, and needing to win by 2.
And we've even expanded our vocabulary with rusty and wanna join.
Not bad for a quick deep dive into a casual badminton game. But we touched on this earlier. Badminton can be so much more than just a backyard game.
Right, you mentioned something about speed, footwork, and timing.
Exactly. While Amy and Ben are focusing on the basics, the professional side of badminton is on a whole other level. When we talk about speed, the shuttlecock can reach mind-blowing speeds,
How fast are we talking?
over 300 kilometers per hour.
Whoa, that's faster than cars on the highway.
I know, right? It's crazy to think that something so light can move that fast.
And to hit it at that speed, you need incredible reflexes and precision. That's where the footwork comes in. Professional players have these intricate footwork patterns they use to move around the court.
So it's not just about standing still and swinging your arm.
Definitely not. It's like a dance, almost. They need to cover the entire court quickly and efficiently, get into the perfect position to hit the shuttlecock.
It's a full-body workout just to get ready for the shot.
And then there's timing. Hitting the shuttlecock at the exact right moment with the right angle of your racket, that's what separates the pros from the amateurs.
Makes sense. You can't just be swinging wildly. You got to be in sync with the shuttlecock.
Exactly. And all of this, the speed, the footwork, the timing, it transforms what might seem like a simple game into a high-level demanding sport.
So those basic serves and shots that Amy and Ben are practicing, they're the foundation for all that complexity.
Exactly. It's like learning the alphabet before you can write a novel. You need the basics to build on.
And it's not just in badminton. It's in any skill you learn, really.
Totally. Whether it's playing music or learning a language or even cooking.
You start with the simple stuff, and then it gradually gets more complex and nuanced. And that's the beauty of it, I think.
I agree. It's that journey from beginner to expert.
So for our listeners who might be feeling inspired to try badminton after this, we've given them a good place to start. They know the basic rules, how to score, and even some useful phrases.
It's a great foundation to build upon. Who knows? They might even end up being the ones explaining the rules to their friends one day.
Imagine that, going from rusty to the badminton expert in the group.
That's the goal, right?
Okay, before we wrap up this deep dive, let's do a quick recap of those key takeaways. First up, serving. Always underhand, always aiming for that opposite service box.
Then we have scoring, rally scoring, meaning every rally counts for a point. You play to 21, but you have to win by at least 2 points.
And don't forget those useful English phrases, feeling rusty when you're out of practice, and that casual invitation, wanna join.
It's amazing how much we learn from just one conversation. And hopefully our listeners feel more equipped to understand badminton, whether they want to play, watch, or just chat about it with friends.
Exactly. It's all about taking something that might seem complex and breaking it down into manageable pieces.
And having a little fun along the way.
Absolutely. So before we say goodbye, I have a final thought for you, our listeners. Think about this. What other seemingly simple activities in your life actually have a lot of depth and complexity?
Ooh, I like that.
It could be anything, a hobby, a game, even something like cooking. We often don't realize how much skill and knowledge goes into those everyday things.
It's a good reminder to appreciate the little things.
It's, surprisingly rich vocabulary.
And it really is more than just, hoops and slam dunks.
Right, exactly.
We've got some really fascinating material extracted from hello6.pdf.
Okay.
And hello6.pdf looks at some common basketball phrases and terms that we use.
And we're not just going to define them, right?
No.
We're going to, see how they've sort of bounced their way into our everyday language.
That's amazing how they do.
And often, they reveal more than we realize.
Yeah.
It's like this whole hidden layer of meaning. in our everyday conversations.
Absolutely.
And a lot of it, is built on shared experiences, even if you've never actually, played basketball.
Sure.
So to get us warmed up, let's sort of eavesdrop on this conversation between Tom and Alex as they get ready for a casual, pickup game.
Love it.
All right.
Okay.
So right off the bat, we got a whole playbook of phrases. Okay, let's start at the very beginning. First to 11.
Yeah, so first to 11, in the simplest form, as our source mentions, is just a way to decide who wins, right? Score 11 points before the other person and bam, you're the victor. It's clear. Agreed upon.
Right. But it makes you think about how often we set these first to X targets in our daily lives, right?
Absolutely.
Think about being the first to reach a certain number of clients or the first to complete like a stage of a project.
Right.
Like there's this inherent drive.
To get to that milestone.
Yeah.
And it's a tangible measure of progress. I mean, how much have we completed? 10%, 50%. Yeah. We need something to track.
Right. But it also brings up that question, are we so fixated on that number sometimes that we overlook other important aspects?
Like the quality.
Yeah.
Or the bigger picture.
Yeah.
We might rush to get to 11 without considering how we got there.
Exactly. We might miss learning opportunities if we're so fixated on just crossing the finish line.
Right.
Right. So for you listening, are there areas in your life where that mentality dominates?
Yeah.
And what are the potential trade-offs of that approach?
Yeah, good question.
All right. Alex follows up with a little bit of a warning, right?
Okay.
But no fouls.
Okay. Uh-oh.
You were a little rough last time. So let's talk about fouls.
Yeah. So, I mean, in basketball, a foul is essentially a rule violation.
Right.
And it often involves physical contact that gives one player an unfair advantage. So it's like stepping outside those boundaries.
Right. But the concept of a foul, it's so much broader.
Yeah.
It is. We use it to describe, like, when someone's crossed the line in all kinds of situations.
Of course.
Think about social faux pas or, like, even, ethical breaches.
Yeah. In our daily life, a foul could be anything from interrupting somebody, repeatedly.
Right.
Like, I guess that's a conversational foul.
Yeah.
To missing a critical deadline at work.
Oh, yeah. Big one.
Which, I guess that's a professional foul.
Right.
It's about violating unspoken norms, expectations.
Yeah.
And there's consequences, strained relationships.
Yeah. It makes me think, it highlights how important it is to understand the rules of any situation.
The implicit rules.
The implicit, yeah.
To the game, right.
Of the game, exactly.
Yeah.
So for you listening, what are some common fouls you've either, witnessed or maybe even committed unintentionally?
Oh, yeah.
What are those unspoken rules?
In your world.
Yeah, in your world, yeah.
No.
Okay, so Tom's response to the no fouls plea is no promises. Just don't leave me open for a 3 again. So let's break down the leave me open for the 3-parter.
Okay, so in basketball terms, to leave someone open means not guarding them effectively, giving them like an easy shot.
Right.
From beyond that 3-point line.
Yeah.
Which, of course, the 3 itself refers to that shot taken outside the arc. Yeah. And if successful, bam, 3 points.
Right. You get the extra point.
More than a standard field goal.
Okay.
So Tom is basically saying, hey, guard me when I'm out there.
When you're out on the perimeter.
Yes.
Yeah. But think about how we use that leave me open metaphorically.
All the time.
We might say, don't leave yourself open to that kind of criticism.
Right.
By being unprepared, or don't leave that opportunity open for a competitor by not acting quickly.
It's about recognizing vulnerabilities.
Totally. And potential risks.
What's so interesting here, though, is that dual nature.
Yes.
Of leaving something open. Sometimes it's about creating an opportunity. Like, oh, I'm going to leave the networking event open in my schedule because who knows, right?
Yeah.
But then sometimes it's like it creates a weakness.
Yeah.
That can be exploited.
It can backfire.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, it makes you think about what you're leaving open.
Intentionally and unintentionally.
Yes.
Are you leaving doors open?
For positive things.
For positive things to come in?
Or
are you, like, inadvertently, leaving openings for problems to come in?
Right.
Maybe it's as simple as leaving communication channels open on a project.
To avoid those misunderstandings.
Or making sure that you've got really clear boundaries in a relationship.
Right.
So you don't get taken advantage of.
Right.
Now, let's talk about the 3.
Okay.
The 3-pointer.
The three.
Oh.
It's become such a huge part of modern basketball
Yeah.
because it's more points.
Yeah.
Obviously, you get 3 instead of 2.
Yeah. But with a higher reward comes a higher risk,
Yeah.
right? It's lower probability of success.
Especially if you're not that good of a shooter.
Especially, yeah.
It's that risk-reward calculation.
Exactly.
And that resonates in other areas, right?
Of course, of course.
Are there any three-pointer type decisions you're facing right now?
Ooh, I like that.
A bold career move or, an investment.
Right. Something that could pay off big,
Yeah,
but also has a lot of risk.
exactly. That tension between potential gain and the possibility of loss, that's so central
It really is.
to so many of the choices we make.
The three-pointer just crystallizes it.
Yeah, it does.
It forces you to evaluate
Yeah.
the odds.
What are the consequences? Okay, let's move on to Alex's response. Hey, I was guarding you. You just hit a lucky shot.
Ooh, a lucky shot.
Let's zoom in on that. What exactly is a lucky shot?
Well, a lucky shot, as our source implies, is basically a basket that goes in
Yeah.
due to more chance or fortune.
Then pure skill.
Then, like, you meant to do that.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
It might bounce off the rim a couple of times before falling in.
Yeah, I've seen those.
Or a bad pass
Yeah.
that accidentally goes through the hoop.
Yeah.
It's unexpected.
It defies all odds.
Yeah, it defies the odds.
And those happen all the time in life, don't they?
Oh, yeah.
That job application, you almost didn't submit, and then it leads to this incredible opportunity.
Right,
Or a chance encounter that turns into this meaningful relationship.
right.
There's definitely an element of serendipity.
Serendipity, love that word.
But, it's crucial to differentiate, right?
Absolutely.
Between a lucky shot and skill and effort.
Yes.
While luck can open doors,
Sustained success.
sustained success is the result of, preparation and practice and, being strategic.
A strategic approach, right.
Oh.
You can't just have lucky breaks your whole life.
No, you can't build a whole career.
A whole life. A whole life. Yeah, based on those. It's about appreciating those moments, but not relying on them
As your strategy.
as your only strategy. Yeah.
Right,
It's the hard work and dedication that create more opportunities for success,
right,
even if it doesn't feel like a lucky shot in the moment.
right.
So, can you think of a time you benefited from a lucky shot?
Oh, yeah. I'm sure we all have a story.
No, we've all got stories.
I mean, sometimes what appears to be luck is actually like groundwork we laid earlier
Yeah.
without even realizing it. That connection, that lucky connection, happened because you've been networking.
Yeah, you've been putting in the work.
So even luck has underlying factors.
Right, next up, Tom comes back with some determination. Well, get ready, because I'm bringing my A game today.
Ooh, yes,
This is a phrase we hear all the time.
all the time.
What does it truly mean to bring your A game?
It means performing at your best,
At your absolute best.
your highest level
Everything.
of skill, focus, energy, preparation. You're fully present,
Yeah.
ready to excel.
Ready to bring it.
To bring it, yeah.
To crush it.
Yeah.
We use it all the time.
Yeah, like, I've got this really important meeting today. I got to bring my A game.
Exactly.
Or our competitor is launching this new product, so we all need to bring our A game.
It's this universal call to action
Absolutely.
to perform at your peak potential.
It's a clear intention
Yeah.
that you're ready to tackle anything.
Hang on.
It implies a huge commitment.
So for you listening, think about situations in your near future
Oh, yeah.
where you're going to need to bring your A game.
Coming up.
Yeah. What does that look like for you?
What does that A game look like in different contexts?
Yeah.
Is it being super organized for presentation?
Yeah.
Is it being an active listener?
During a really difficult conversation,
It's about defining your A game.
Yeah.
In all these different areas.
which is so insightful.
Such an exercise in self-awareness.
It is
Knowing those elements, you can cultivate them when you meet them.
when they matter most.
It's not just about effort.
You've got the right kind of effort.
It's directed effort.
Yeah.
Optimized.
Finally, Alex wraps up with, okay, let's tip off. Now,
Mhm.
for anybody who's not a basketball expert, what is a tip-off?
So the tip-off is the procedure
Right.
that starts a basketball game.
Huh?
So the referee throws the ball up
Yeah.
between two players.
Yeah.
They jump up and try and, tip it to their teammates.
Gain possession.
Yeah, the team that gets the ball
Yeah.
starts the offense.
Begins the game.
Official start in the game.
And just like first to 11,
Yeah.
it's found its way into everyday language
Yeah.
as a metaphor for beginnings.
I'm sure.
Like, let's tip off this project.
Yeah.
Or, we're ready to tip off this marketing campaign.
It signifies a new start,
Yeah.
the commencement of something new.
It's that moment when preparation becomes execution.
Anticipation.
Right.
Things are about to start.
Underway.
So what are your new beginnings?
Yeah. What are some tip-offs or new beginnings you're facing?
What's just getting started?
Yeah.
And what's your strategy for a strong start?
You know.
Winning that tip-off, it's like an early advantage.
Yeah.
It can set you on that path for success.
So, in our source, Crystal really highlights how, these basketball terms we think are specific are really versatile.
Yeah, they pop up all the time.
And it really underscores how interconnected language is.
Across domains.
It really is.
We share these experiences.
Even if it's just watching a basketball game.
And that shapes how we communicate.
It's so true. And if we broaden our view a little bit, like understanding these metaphors, even from a niche area like basketball, that can help us communicate better overall.
Absolutely.
You become more attuned to how language works on different levels.
On these different levels, yeah.
And how specific words carry layers of meaning.
Layers, yeah.
This directly benefits, someone who wants to grasp information quickly and effectively, right?
Absolutely. It's like recognizing those patterns.
Totally.
That's the shortcut
Yeah.
to understanding.
It's about seeing the underlying concept, right?
Yes.
Once you get the concept of bringing your A game,
Yeah.
you can apply that to anything.
It doesn't matter if you know basketball or not.
It doesn't at all.
Yeah.
It really helps you understand and express yourself
With precision.
with precision and impact.
And it makes you think more critically.
Yeah.
You question why certain phrases resonate.
Why they stick.
It makes you want to go deeper.
It does.
Explore that human experience.
And that's where the real insight is.
That's where it's at.
Okay. Let's do a quick recap.
Right.
We explored first to 11 and the power of clear goals.
On and off the court.
Foul reminded us about the importance of rules and boundaries.
Boundaries.
Leaving open for a 3, highlighted vulnerabilities and opportunities.
Yeah.
3-pointer. The risk-reward dynamic.
That calculation.
A lucky shot touched on the role of chance.
Alongside skill.
Bring my A game is about kick performance.
Yeah.
And tip-off signifies those new beginnings.
Those fresh starts.
And it's remarkable how these phrases
Seemingly simple phrases.
capture these fundamental things about us.
Like what makes us tick.
Competition, strategy, risk, opportunity.
Effort. New ventures.
So for our interactive element today, we're putting you in the game.
Ooh, I like it.
Have you ever played basketball?
Good question.
And more importantly, how would you use the phrase, bring your A game in your life right now?
Oh, yeah. Think about it.
What's that specific challenge?
Or opportunity.
Yeah.
Where you need to bring your A game.
What does that look like?
What does that mean?
Defining that is it's so helpful.
It is.
So we really encourage you to think about it.
Spend a moment with that.
Yeah, and it might even spark curiosity about, other vocabularies.
Other areas of life.
Other niche areas that might have unique language that can give us insights.
If we just listen closely.
If we just listen closely,
Oh, it makes you wonder, what other, hidden lexicons
Yeah.
hold these perspectives?
On behavior or strategy or just everyday life.
Yeah, the little things.
It's true. Even a basketball game can teach us lessons.
It's not just a game.
It's not,
It gives us tools.
linguistic tools, yeah.
We can apply them to other situations.
So many situations in our lives.
It's true.
Sometimes the most profound insights are found in the most unexpected places.
I love that.
If we're just willing to take a little deep dive
Take that deep dive, right?
into the language around us.
A final thought.
Yeah.
How does paying attention to the language that we use and the language that's used in all these specific fields, how does that make us see the world differently?
Yeah, how does it change our perception?
And understand how it all works?
Yeah.
Maybe the key to understanding more is recognizing those metaphors.
The metaphors that shape our thinking.
Yeah,
That is so true.
it's true.
And on that note, thanks for joining us for another deep dive.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure.
Until next time.